For joining us, everybody. Again, I'm Dan Ponce, WGN Morning News, and I'm going to keep them on time here because I need to get up at 2 a.m. for work tomorrow, and I know all of you are waking up at 4 a.m. to watch me every morning, right? Just don't watch one of those other stations that some of my family members work for, okay? Like, my brother works for some random station, Channel 5. Nobody watches Channel 5. My dad works for Chicago Tonight. A few of you might know him, you know. I'm just kidding. All right, so we're going to stick to the questions here. I haven't seen these questions before. The candidates, have been assured, have not seen the questions before. So we have, we'd like to start by giving each of you, Aaron Goldstein and Dick Mell, just 2 minutes to just say hello and maybe make an opening statement and just greet the crowd. Again, we want to get to know you a little bit better. Aaron, let's go ahead and start with you. Welcome.
Can y'all hear me okay?
On the microphone.
What'd you say?
On the microphone, there's a switch.
Ah, yeah.
There's the on switch. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
No.
You know what? Don't worry about it.
You have a hand on my microphone?
No, go for it.
I'm the singer too, so if when awkward silences, I'm just going to bust out in a song, and I will take.
Please hurry up. He's going to start singing.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, you good?
Can you hear me okay? Yeah. How y'all doing? Stay in one place. Okay. Is this a good place? Okay, we're good. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. Thank you to all the community organizations that set this up. Really, this is about participation, right? If we don't have participation, our democracy fails. If we have participation, our democracy thrives. And what does a committeeman do? What's at stake here? Our democracy. What's so important about participation and the importance of a strong democracy? If you have an election that you're not sure the results are actually accurate, do you believe in that democracy? If you have judges in the judicial system that aren't qualified, you don't have a democracy. That's what's at stake here, and that's why I'm running. So we're going to hear a lot, and we're going to go over the questions. I have a Ponce family, and we have another strong family. I'm surrounded by very strong families here, I see. But it's bigger than that. It's important that we have a fair process. So what does a committeeman do? They can appoint election judges to make sure that elections are run fairly, to make sure all the shenanigans that we see all the time in the 33rd Ward don't happen. What else does it do? Make sure that participation is at an elevated rate. When you feel that that election result was not a fair result, was not a true result, you don't believe in your democracy. So what else do we have, and what else can a committeeman do? Raise the participation rates, voter turnout at an all-time low. That's the committeeman's job. Also, and I'll wrap up with this, judges. Judges in the judicial system, where so many crucial things, decisions are made every single day. Judges are slated by committee, and that's crucial. And that's why we're here, and that's why I'm running for committee. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron.
Mr. Mell, if you could stay in one place.
I'll stay right here.
Thank you very much.
I think I'm on.
Yep.
I'm glad Aaron mentioned judges. I'm very, very proud of the judges that the 33rd Ward is back. In fact, one, I think that Aaron, in fact, practiced before, Kathy Patley, comes from our community and is one of them. I'm very happy that I was instrumental in slating more women judges than most any other committeeman. But the committeeman race, the committeeman itself, is involved, and I wish we had more time to talk about when I first became committeeman to where the committeeman is today. When I first came in, right in 1960, the Democratic Party of Cook County was allegedly the instrument of electing John F. Kennedy to the White House. The Democratic Party has now slid down to, as Aaron said, a turnout that is the worst turnout I've ever seen. Some wards cast less than 10%. Some of the wards along the city cast less than 10%. The 33rd ward has always been higher than almost any ward in its vicinity in casting votes. The sad situation is that there's a turnout in Democratic primary voters. There are more independent voters today than there are primary voters. And that's sad. And Aaron's absolutely right that we've lost interest. One of the things that I'm so happy about as a committeeman is seeing Bernie out there, because Bernie is enthused a younger generation that normally is not even interested, doesn't even register. And the thing that's really disturbing is that 7 of the electorate, 50% of the people who are eligible to vote do not register to vote. And of the 50% who are registered to vote, 50% vote. So we're sitting with 25% of the electorate making the decisions, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that in the future.
All right, good, thank you. So that was actually, you guys both touched on the first question here, so I'm going to get right to the second question, to some of the meat of this as we get to know you here. So Aaron, let's start with this question here for you. Please elaborate on the role a committeeman plays in ward polling places. What would be your criteria in choosing election judges? And I'm going to go ahead and give you my microphone here because I think this is the one. I'll just pass it right over. You can stay seated.
Thank you. So the question was about election judges and making sure that elections are run fairly. The most crucial thing a committeeman can do when it comes to fair elections is appoint election judges. Well, how do we have fair election judges? Number one, we got to train them. Now, the Board of Elections does do a training. We need a better training. We need to sit down and train people how to be election judges and what the law is. I've been a poll watcher a few times, and I've seen the stuff that happens. We have a couple of problems. First, the election judges, many of them don't know exactly what the law is. Second of all, you have a lot of electioneering. So the last election, you had candidates going into the polling places, which they're absolutely forbidden from doing, and electioneering. You had flyers and pamphlets and all these things in the polling place. That's not supposed to happen. Even if you're a good election judge and you're conscientious, and there are those good election judges, even if you are that, if you're just one election judge, you can't do it all because you got to be there at 5 in the morning, you got to leave at 8 in the evening, it's a full day, and you're trying to take care of all these things. Another thing an election judge can do is make sure the numbers are accurate. We had an 18-vote difference last election. And there is not one person in this room that can tell me with a straight face that they feel confident that was an accurate vote. Election judges need to make sure that the numbers were spot on. So we need to train them. We need to make sure that they're passing tests, that they actually are qualified. And third, we also need to make sure that people are incentivized to come and be election judges. People don't want to do it. Because a committeeman is supposed to walk around the neighborhood, supposed to recruit people and say, this is an important thing for our community. And that hasn't been done.
You can hand the mic actually just for
Great. I'm glad that you mentioned about election judges. I have right here with me tonight some applications for election judges. For anybody out there who would like to volunteer, we need election judges. At the last minute, last time, people are forced to come in to the community from outside that have no ideas. Carol is one of our election judges here tonight from PEEP. She is one of the ones that knows what it takes. It's a long, tedious job. So if anybody is interested, please fill out one of these applications. We are short. I think we're short 7 or 8 Democratic and probably 20 to 30 Republican judges, and that's atrocious. And so, in fact, I certainly believe that is one of the important roles of being a committeeman. one of the other important roles of the committeeman is being a conduit for ethical and ideas. For example, my daughter asked me, said, "Dad, we were picketing the Cardinals' residence this afternoon. Would you come and join?" That's when it wasn't a very popular thing to do. And I said, "Deborah, I'm going to come with you, but you know I'm going to be the #1 instrument of the television cameras," which I was. From then on, after seeing that, every candidate that came before the Democratic Party for slating, I asked them how they stood on equal rights for gay, lesbian, transgender, which was a very important for me because remember in Chicago was a very heavily Catholic city, and there was a lot of folks that didn't go along with that idea. I'm sorry, I ran out of time.
That's all right. Aaron, if you could take another 1 minute to either respond to Mr. Mell or to expand upon what you were saying before.
So we're in the middle of early voting. People have made absentee ballot requests, and we're less than 2 weeks away from the election, and the committeeman is asking for support to have election judges. The job of a committeeman is not right before the election, quite frankly during the election, to make sure that we have election judges. The job of the committeeman is to be out in the community every day, recruiting, participating in the democracy, not at a forum where they're talking about whether you should elect this person. They should not be asking for election judges right now. That should be an active participation of this job in this position. So to come here a week and a half before the election and say we need election judges, that's too late. And that's not what a committeeman should be doing. It should be out there in the summer, in the winter, should be having forums, should be having these discussions, even about the issues that the committeeman talked about. It should be having participation of the community.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Mr. Mell, if you'd like to take another minute.
Yeah, I think that when I ask about elected judges, I was pretty happy that the fact that the Democratic Party, which I'm involved in, is only short, I think, 4 or 5. The Republican Party, which it's not my role, which will be your role, is to get their share. So I'm asking if folks want to come in and actually sign up and maybe even vote, even take a Republican ballot. I mean, if they want to be a judge. So that's where I feel on election judges. It's a difficult job. A lot of folks don't want to take it. And it's not the easiest position to fill.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so the next question here, we'll start with you, Aaron, again. When her slating was revoked by the Democratic Party, Circuit Court Clerk Dorothy Brown charged in the press that her $25,000 donation to the party constituted a contract to be slated and that the contract had been breached. Do candidates, quote, pay to play in the Cook County Democratic Party, and does this constitute corruption?
Yes, and yes. I have been going around and talking to people, talking to voters, talking to people in the community, and the going rate to become a judge is $30,000. In order to become a slated judge, you need to contribute $30,000 to the Democratic Party. Dorothy Brown, for all her faults, exposed that practice. And as you indicated, Dan, Dorothy Brown got the slating, got the endorsement. She was endorsed, and then all these things came out about Dorothy Brown, that there was a federal investigation. Well, the Cook County Democratic Party president, Joe Barrios, said, well, let's have a different slating. So they decided to have a different slating, and they revoked the slating for Miss Brown, and they decided to slate someone else. Well, what Dorothy Brown said is, wait a minute, that's a contract because I gave you 25 grand. And Joe Barrios specifically said, You could have easily said, well, that's just a contribution. You gave us $25,000, you're contributing to the party, you don't get it back. Instead, he said, we'll give it back. There's nothing more that indicates a contract for all my lawyer friends out there than saying, you didn't get what you bargained for, we will give the money back. What was bargained for was the slating. What the money that's being given back is, well, you're not getting the slating. Is it corruption? Is it pay to play? Yes isn't a strong enough word, quite frankly. And it's happens all the time. And these are judges and these are candidates that we are stuck with because of this pay to play.
Aaron, thank you.
I think what happened and what happens in the slating is that each candidate who gets slated is asked to help contribute to the mailings that come out by the Democratic Party. In fact, they do. Now, a lot of them do not actually give the money, but they still are part of the Democratic slating and still part of the mailers that come out of the Democratic Party. Is it the way it should be? Absolutely not. But the fact that the financing of the mailers and the information coming out about the slated Democratic candidates has to be paid by somewhere, and unfortunately the Democratic Party does not raise the type of money to be able to offset the cost themselves. So they ask the people to participate. So the fact that Dorothy Brown was asked to contribute, everybody was asked to contribute. And if they didn't contribute, they were still slated. They were just asked to help contribute to the cost of the mailers. And so, in fact, a lot of them didn't. A lot of them did not. But they still are slated. Now, I ask you, one of the things that's very important is vetting some of the candidates who are on there. Tonight, if you get home before 9 o'clock, turn on channel on Fox News and see Judge Bates, who was slated, unfortunately, by the Democratic Party, who's not on my palm card. I'm not certainly supporting him, but see his credentials and watch, if you have a chance, watch at 9 o'clock on Fox News. You'll be very interested in Judge Bates's opportunity to be slated by the Democratic Party. A terrible mistake by the Democratic Party.
Aaron, do you want to take another minute?